START II treaty with Russia and the Chemical Weapons Convention treaty ratified. And finally, he made special mention of the value of the American family, and in particular praised his own wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton. The First Lady faces a grilling from a grand jury this Friday over the so-called Whitewater affair. That scandal, plus Mr. Clinton's gridlock with the Republican-controlled Congress, could hurt him in November's election. James Lagilia, TVB News.
Homeless people in Tokyo have clashed with police attempting to tear down a row of shacks in a downtown underpass. The action capped months of escalating tension between City Hall and those living in Cardboard Village. Louise Waters reports.
Crashing through a barricade erected by protesters, police moved in from two sides. A fire extinguisher was set off, forcing them to retreat before mounting a final assault. Authorities are trying to relocate the tunnel dwellers to a temporary shelter, but many don't want to go because it's due to be closed in 2 months. City officials repeatedly reminded the protesters that hot meals and free medical care would be available. But this man complained that the shelter looked like a prison and said there were too many rules. Earlier in the month, a government ultimatum was issued demanding the squatters move out of the area. It said their occupation of the passageway had caused trouble to nearby shops and passers-by. A moving walkway is being planned for where the shelters used to be. Most of the protesters were forcibly removed by the afternoon, and only 3 arrests were reported. Although small by the standards of many other cities, the Cardboard Shack enclave had been Tokyo's largest homeless community. About 200 people, mostly unemployed older men, lived there, and hundreds more nearby. Though the number of homeless in Tokyo often fluctuates, it's believed to have gradually increased over the past few years, due in part to a prolonged recession. And the clash served to focus attention on a social problem that most Japanese would prefer to ignore. Louise Waters, TVB News.
The upper house of Russia's parliament has elected a former Soviet Politburo member as its speaker. The choice of Igor Stroyev to head the Federation of Council means both houses of parliament are now led by current or former communists. Stroyev advocates slowing down Russian economic reforms, although he's no longer a Communist Party member. Chechen rebels have reportedly released 45 hostages seized in a raid in the Russian region of Dagestan. The hostages were handed over to Dagestan officials. The Russians, meanwhile, have handed over the bodies of 42 rebels killed in last week's raid in Dagestan to the rebels. In sports, Andre Agassi has regained the world #1 crown by beating compatriot Jim Courier in a quarterfinal challenge of the Australian Open. Courier was ahead in the first 2 sets, but later went down 6-7, 2-6, 6-3, 6-4, 6-2. He's now set to battle it out against Hong Kong's favourite Michael Chang for a place in the final. Meanwhile, Mark Woodford, Boris Becker, Chandra Rubin and Anke Huber have all reached the semi-finals. Finance news next, and U.S. banks Wells Fargo and First Interstate have reached agreement to merge, creating America's 8th largest bank. In London, Hong Kong shares are mixed. The Hang Seng London Index is up 5 points on today's local close. Cheung Kong unchanged, China Light up 5, Wharf down 13, Wheelock up 5, HSBC up 12, Hutchison up 7, Henderson Land unchanged, Swire up 10, Sun Hung Gate down 3 and Telecom unchanged. UK shares are up 0.8, while Wall Street is up 17 points in early trading. In New York, the dollar opened stronger against major currencies. In Hong Kong dollar rates, yen 7.24, mark 5.21, Swiss franc 6.48 and 11.68 to the pound. Finally, the weather tomorrow will be cloudy with sunny intervals and a high of 20 degrees. Well, that's it from us. Thanks for watching. Good night.